All right, today we're going to open up a little time capsule. And inside? Well, it's a piece of TV history that, believe it or not, paved the way for pretty much every medical show you've ever loved, but it's been almost completely forgotten.
Yep, that's right. Long before we were all obsessing over the drama in the halls of County General or Seattle Grace, there was another hospital that totally captured the nation's attention, and it was called Alden General. So, have you? I'm going to go out on a limb and guess the answer is probably no. And you know what? There's a really fascinating and honestly kind of heartbreaking reason for that, and we'll definitely get to it. But first things first, let's head back to the very beginning. Okay, so we are talking about a show called The Nurses, and this thing was a true pioneer. I mean, it brought these intense, serialized, high-stakes medical stories to primetime TV way, way before that was the norm. The whole premise was, simple on the surface, but totally revolutionary for its time. It was all about this mentor-mentee relationship between the experienced head nurse, a woman named Liz Thorpe, and this young, bright-eyed student nurse, Gail Lucas. And their stories, plus the stories of their patients, were really the heart and soul of the show.
So, let's get our bearings. Here's a quick little roadmap of the show's run. It kicked off on CBS back in the fall of '62, and it ran for 2 seasons just as The Nurses. But then, for its third and final season, it actually got a new title before it said its final goodbye in the spring of '65. So, not a super long run, but man, was it impactful.
All right, let's break that down season by season, starting with season 1. I mean, right from its very first episode, The Nurses set a tone that was, well, it was gritty, it was realistic, and it was unbelievably daring for the early 1960s. This show did not mess around. It wasted zero time. It just threw its main characters and us, the audience, right into the deep end. We're talking complex medical ethics and social issues that, honestly, other shows wouldn't even think about touching for decades to come. And yeah, this really shows you just how far they were willing to push things. They had storylines about a nurse being accused of ending a patient's suffering, a really tough plot where Gail faces an assault and no one believes her, and an entire episode about a woman's right to choose. And just remember, this was 1963. They even took on the thalidomide crisis and the sexism that female surgeons had to deal with. Pretty incredible stuff.
So after a first season that explosive, you have to ask, how do you possibly top that? Well, for season 2, the show basically doubled down. It just kept pushing the boundaries of what was considered okay to show on television. The focus got even wider, and they started digging into some of the most sensitive topics you could imagine for that era, things like addiction, abuse, and mental health. And believe me, the personal stakes for the nurses just got higher and higher. I mean, just look at the range here. The season premiere was all about a nurse's secret narcotics addiction. They had other episodes that explored a child's accusation of abuse and the prejudice a male nurse faced when he wanted to work in obstetrics. They even did this really meta self-parody episode where a TV crew comes to film a show at the hospital. That's incredible. Okay, so for its third and final act, the series went through this huge transformation, and it was a big one, reflected in a brand new title and a really significant shift in focus. The show was retitled The Doctors and the Nurses. And this was not just a simple name change. Nope. It brought 2 new male leads, Dr. Alex Dizinski and Dr. Ted Steffen, right into the main cast. And that just completely changed the whole dynamic of the show. So now, with doctors sharing the spotlight, the series got to explore all these new conflicts, a lot more workplace politics, and totally different medical perspectives. It just made the drama at Alden General even more complex than it was before. And let me tell you, the show did not lose its edge. Just look at some of these storylines. One of the main doctors becomes a suspect when his ex-girlfriend dies from an illegal abortion. They're dealing with listening devices being planted in patient rooms, and they had a direct confrontation with racial prejudice on the hospital wards. I mean, this was still, without a doubt, one of the most daring shows on TV. Imagine that. So, with a history that is this rich, this daring, why isn't this show talked about in the same breath as other TV classics? Well, that brings us to the final and, honestly, the most poignant part of this whole story. Look, there is zero question about its impact. The Nurses literally laid the groundwork for the entire medical drama genre as we know it. It proved that audiences were more than ready for complex, ongoing character stories set in a super high-pressure world. Over its 3 seasons, the show produced a staggering 98-hour-long episodes. Think about that. 98 hours of absolutely groundbreaking, boundary-pushing television.
And here it is. Here's the truly heartbreaking twist. See, because of how TV was produced back in the 1960s, expensive videotapes were often just erased and reused. And because of that, almost all of those 98 episodes, they're gone, just wiped from existence. This incredible, trailblazing piece of television history has pretty much vanished.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other groundbreaking pieces of art, what other important stories have just disappeared? Maybe they're out there waiting to be rediscovered. Or maybe, and this is the sad part, they're just forgotten forever. And that, my friends, is the lost story of The Nurses. If you were as fascinated by this little piece of TV history as I was, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Do you know of any other lost shows? Go ahead and hit that like button and definitely subscribe for more deep dives into the stories you only thought you knew. Thanks so much for watching.